Hello ladies and gentlemen, Keaton here and welcome to this week's look at the latest Nuclear Throne update. This is update number 10. This is the final update for 2013, so hold your butts because here we go. Now before we talk about what's new this week, let's take a quick look back at what happened last week. Now last week's update focused heavily on the corpse sprites for both mutants and enemies. Now if you want a more in-depth look into the details of those specifics, you can watch a previous video because we cover it a lot better than I'm just gonna recap here. So the second portion of the update was dedicated specifically to the sound, and again it's a lot of specific stuff, so basically what I'm just saying here is just go watch our previous video because we cover it a lot better than I can wrap up. Anyway, on to update number 10 because we have a large mixed bag this week, so let's just get straight into it. Now, update number 10 might not seem like it, but it's a pretty fun update. Now, before we get into the update specifically, I want to just go over the quick things that I unfortunately have no footage to cover. So let's just get a quick rundown of those things in particular. In general, the Frozen City is still being worked on. Lil Hunter has been rebalanced. There are new sound effects for the Snowbots, the Snow Tanks, and the IDPDs and Assassins. There's a brand new weapon called the Ion Cannon. There are new IDPD explosions, plasma explosions, and there's new maggot spawner art, which you will see occasionally through the video anyway, so just keep your eye out for those little mounds of like bones and like flesh. You'll see them. And that's about it for things that you will not see me cover here today. But let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's start with the top new addition. Now up until this point, the extent of character personality has pretty much just been grunts and gibberish. And I've been hearing and seeing in various places talking about how they want to change that. And they finally changed that. There is now voice acting for key mutants. The mutants noted in the changelog are Fish, Crystal, Eyes, Melting, Plant, Robot, and Steroids. And I've got some sound bites, so take a look. And there you go. Here's a quick look at some of the new voice acting for each mutant. As you can tell, they're very distinct and give each character a unique sort of vocal identity, and I think that's really cool. I'll talk more about that in my thoughts at the end, but yeah, I can't stress how much I really like this addition, and I'm really happy to see it actually come to fruition after everything I've read about it and so forth. And speaking of sounds, there's now a new sound effect that notifies you when you're low on ammo and HP. I guess this is pretty good. I guess if you're not attentive to your resources and health. To be honest, I did not really notice this while playing. That could maybe be because I was just so into the action, I just didn't hear it. It was definitely not as obvious as, say, the weapon switching sound. I don't know if that was intended, but yeah, personal experience, didn't really notice it, but there you go. Campfire animations have been updated. Now every character has a distinct animation that sort of corresponds to who they are as a character. We've got Steroids reading a book. We've got Eyes playing with a maggot, you know, letting it run away and just bringing it back with its power. We've got Chicken watching TV. We're seeing these characters get fleshed out in both a visual and audio way. It's really cool. I'm really happy to see this happening. Speaking of Chicken's TV, apparently her TV is referencing movies. I'll be honest, I couldn't tell what they were. One might have been like a Godzilla movie. I want to say one of them was Toxic Avenger, but I think that would be stretching it. It's kind of hard to tell because it's pixel art and it's you know, it's low res pixel art. So if I'm right, someone please tell me. I would love to know that I got something right in there. Anyway, moving on. One of the most notable changes you'll see visually this update is the portal debris and lighting effects when going through the portal. And this is really cool because it actually relates to whichever level you're on. So if you're in the desert, you'll see a lot of rocks and like brown. But if you're in like say the sewer, you'll see green debris, and sometimes you'll see a rat. I saw one rat just flying through the portal. And I believe scrapyard is you know, the grayish blue and so forth and so on. It's really cool. It's always nice to see visual flair. Yeah, I'm all for that. Now what's interesting is this next update bit was actually something I saw mentioned on the Steam forums. The giant rats in the sewers can end up just spawning infinite amounts of smaller rats. And that was something I was concerned about too, but I thought that was like a feature. I didn't think that was like a bug or anything, but it was addressed. And it looks like they've actually fixed that in this update. So now, are you guys ready? So what happens now is, I guess when big rats hit a limit on how many rats they've deployed, they change their offensive. And what do? You may be asking yourself. They charge at you. They go absolutely nuts. They pretty much do what Big Bandit does sometimes, where he'll charge and just knock anything down in his way. Same thing with these big rats. So big rats, when they've fully depleted their rat supply, I guess you could say, they will start charging you if they see you, and they charge quick, so you have to be on the ball. I love this update. I would take charging rats over infinite spawn any day of the week, because that makes the sewers that much more fun. You know, no one likes just fighting hordes and hordes, like endless waves of rats, and I like that big rats now serve a bigger purpose than to just be a deployment object, I guess you could say. I like that they have this major offensive that if you try to wait them out too long, they will retaliate in a way that you will suffer the consequences. I really like this. I really like this update to the rat, and I hope they keep it, because this is a fun alternative to what we were experiencing before, and I think that makes them a ticking bomb that you have to deal with exceptionally quick. I'm actually a little afraid of what happens when like 3 or 4 of them spawn in the sewers like they do sometimes. That's gonna be interesting, but I'm looking forward to taking on these big rats. 2 thumbs up for me, man. 2 thumbs up. Now, for those of you who don't know, Robot's special ability is it can consume weapons for health or ammo, and previously there was no real indication that you did it other than a sound effect. But now, Robot has a cool animation to go along with it. It's sort of like a teeth chomping down effect. It doesn't look to be necessarily part of the actual robot itself, but more of just like a visual indicator that it's eating the weapon, which I guess is okay. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to say, a little weird, but I can live with it. Now that wraps it up for this week's content additions. Let's take a quick look at the fixes and changes this week. Now the changelog notes that there have been some changes to the city algorithm. I'm assuming this is reference to the Frozen City, but since I've only been there once, I can't exactly comment on what changed. So if you've been to the Frozen City more than once and you can see a definite change in the city, please leave a comment below. Let us all know exactly what that means, especially if that means it's gotten more challenging. You know, it's already challenging as is with the ice and the crazy chasing you and robots shooting you, so I'm actually interested to see what this algorithm entails exactly. Now it seems like they've been working heavily on Lil Hunter, so along with the Lil Hunter tweaks to, I guess, the actual boss battle itself, it seems issues dealing with Lil Hunter and music has been solved, as well as apparent error messages that come up. So if those were things that you were dealing with, those have been fixed. Speaking of errors, it seems that they finally addressed the whole missing sound errors that keep popping up for some people, but I don't think they've covered them all, because currently at the time of recording, if you try to restart from the pause menu, you do get a sound error. That is something they'll probably have to hot fix, but other than that, it does seem like all those sound bugs seem to be fixed, so that's really good. Speaking of sound effects, a tweak to Chicken's slow motion has been added, which gives you a sort of bullet time, like with the pitch drop to like the low hum. In fact, I'm just going to show you a clip. Here's the sound that plays when Chicken activates her slow motion ability. And there you go. So with that, that's pretty much it for the update. They did make a note that there were a lot of tiny things they fixed that weren't listed, which I totally understand. They probably just had a list and just punched them out one after another, and there are things that we really don't need to concern ourselves with in the grand scheme of things, you know. So yeah, my thoughts, I really like this update, and one particular reason specifically is that I'm really glad that Vlambeer are not limiting themselves based on the stigma that comes with doing pixel art for video games these days, because I know a lot of people like to look at pixel art and say, oh, indie devs are really using pixel art, and you know, that's a sign of them being lazy or unable to do quote-unquote real graphics. But I'm a firm believer that pixel art has its place in video games and does not signify lazy or a lack of skill, and I think Vlambeer and Nuclear Throne are a prime example of that idea in action. While Nuclear Throne at first glance looks very simple, where the overall aesthetic is technically to be small and compact, where, you know, you have very low detailed characters in a low detailed world, technically speaking at least, but they do not let that hinder them. But despite the fact that everything looks so simplistic at first glance, Vlambeer and the team that's working with Vlambeer have given these characters visual and audio personalities, and we're not talking just like here or there little blips and bloops. Now we're talking full-on voice acting. Their voice corresponds to what they look like. Not only that, we've gotten more visual flair that actually adds to the personality of each character. So now we know that Chicken likes movies or TV. Now we know Isaac's a little sadistic. If you don't read the little Portal pro tips, now you know visually that steroids, he looks like a big beefy meathead, but he's actually an intellectual. That is pretty awesome, man. Like, these are little details that maybe the greater population are just going to look over in the future, but when you look at it as a whole, the visual stigma that tends to come with doing pixel art, it's not a hindrance to the overall potential and quality of the entire game itself. And I really like that, and I've been going on way too long about it. I just really like to see this. I cannot applaud that enough, and I hope aspiring indie developers take notice of something like this and say, okay, you know what, we can still do retro. Let's not focus on what other people think of our visual style. Let's prove to them we chose this art style, you know. So I'll just leave it at that. Let's move on. The only bug I ran into this week was when I paused the game and tried to restart, and I would get an error about a missing confirmation sound. But yeah, other than that and a whole bunch of dying this week, it feels like a good update. Again, it's not a gameplay update necessarily. There are updates to the gameplay here, but this is a very important update nonetheless, because it deals with a subject that I personally have a lot of strong feelings for, because I am a huge supporter of pixel art games, and I personally do them myself. You know, I love the retro look, but again, I'm not going to go back into it because I could just talk all day about it. Overall, from a content aspect, if you're not necessarily into the whole development side of it, you may feel a little underwhelmed, and I can understand, but it sounds like they still have a lot of ambition left for next year, so don't fret just yet. There's still probably a lot of new cool stuff on the way. We just have to be patient, because again, this is the last update for this year. There will be no new updates because Vlambeer will be taking the next 2 weeks off, but they promise that they will in fact be back in January, right back to the game, try and get it into its final stages to a full release. They haven't necessarily specified exactly what their end goal is. It sounds like they're gonna base the future and final product of the game on the community response. However, despite the fact that they will be on break for the next 2 weeks, live streams will continue to be conducted on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm assuming at the same times as usual, but it will not be game development. So you'll probably see a lot of the artists, the sound designer, maybe the people who work on the soundtrack. I'm not too sure. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up this week's Nuclear Throne update. And before I go, once again, I just want to thank everybody who has been supporting these videos, who has been supporting us as a channel. Again, we will have your back in the 2 weeks that there will be no updates. We'll continue to spread the Nuclear Throne love with some maybe Let's Plays, assuming that I just don't keep dying for the first 2 worlds, which has been happening a lot, probably because I'm getting rusty. But I'll definitely continue to try and cover Nuclear Throne here, even in the downtime. to the best of my abilities. And yeah, if you just so happen to come here for the update videos, I would suggest maybe you check out the channel. Maybe you'll find a game that we've covered you want to see more of. Let us know. If not, that's fine with me. You know, we're just happy you're watching these. And for those people, we'll see you guys back in 2014. If not, we'll see you guys later this week on the channel with more content and all that good stuff. So yeah, thank you again to everyone who watched these this year. We're gonna come back next year just as hard. That sounds weird. Yeah, we're gonna come back. We're gonna continue the update videos in 2014. As long as this game is in early access, we will have your back. We will be covering the updates. And if you're looking to pick up the game yourself, check the link in the description below. If you want to see these guys live streaming their developments of not only the game, but the art, the sound, everything, check the link in the description below. And thank you to everyone who watches, comments, favorites, likes, shares it, all of that good stuff. Can't wait to see what they do in 2014. I hope you guys are excited as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy these videos because I enjoy making them for you. And I'll see you guys in 2014. Bye!